the Yugi Bros. Yeah, that intro. It's been around for like a month or something now. Like I feel like we should probably just change it.
You should change it. It's a little bit
Yeah, we could. Oh crap, we're recording. What's up, guys? Yugi Bros here. Just a little bit under the weather, so I'm not gonna show my face for that reason. But I wanted to bring you guys today my top 5, what I consider to be the top 5 most generic skill cards currently in speed duels. Now I'm talking generic, so we're not gonna use Dragon Collar. We're not gonna use Tribal Synergy. I'm sorry, I pronounced it strategy in the other video. Synergy, Tribal Synergy. We're not going to use stuff like that because those are specific to specific decks. We're going to talk about the most generic, even though this list probably won't mean anything in 3 weeks because we'll get a new set and 5 new skills. But for the time being, these are what I would consider to be the top 5 most generically powerful skills in speed duels currently. So number 5, I've got Grit. This skill says, at the start of your turn, call 2 numbers and roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a number you called, your life points do not get lower than 1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. This skill can only be used once per duel. So this is an interesting skill. I put this at 5 because it can miss and then do nothing, and then it's like, well, why did you even play a skill? But I've had this card come up in more fun games and save my ass than I could care to imagine. Like, usually I just call 2 numbers 3 and 6, because they're even apart, even though it's a dice, whatever. And if you get that, you can't lose the game the following turn. Like, they could put you down to 1 life point, which is pretty insane, because that means anything doing damage to you is going to kill you the following turn. But it can keep you alive in a situation where you'd otherwise just be straight dead. So in a lot of decks, if you need like 1 turn to pull off this relinquish combo or something, but you probably won't survive against that Blue Eyes Onslaught. YOLO this, and if you get it right, you live for the turn to guarantee you getting it off next turn. Yeah, you go to 1 life point, but the thing is, your life points aren't 0, and until they're not 0, you don't lose the game. So you could essentially survive off that 1 life. Hopefully you're going for game the following turn, because otherwise this was a really bad gamble. But that's why Grit comes in at number 5. Number 4, I have Millennium Necklace, a Shizu skill. At the start of your opponent's turn, before they draw, you may look at the top 3 cards of their deck and rearrange them in any order. This skill is also once per duel. So what I like about this card is that it's before they draw at the start of their turn. So you can basically mess up whatever they're going to draw. First of all, you get the information to look at 3 cards, so essentially, unless they're going to search, what they're going to draw for their collective next 3 turns. But you can also stack the worst of the 3 cards that you see to the top so that they draw the worst of the 3. But also just getting the information to see what your opponent's playing if the skill didn't already give it away gives you a lot of good advantage. Number 3 is Last Gamble. It's a Joey skill. At the start of the 5th turn, activate the skill. Count both players' turns. During your main phase, you can reduce your life to 100 and discard 2 cards from your hand. Roll a 6-sided die and draw cards equal to the result. This skill is only once per duel. So this is interesting. It can't be used until the 5th turn, but it's the 5th turn counting both you and your opponent's turns. So if you start, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so your 3rd turn. Or if your opponent started, it'd be your 3rd turn after they've gone. So I like that you don't have to flip this when you use it. It just flips automatically, basically giving your opponent the information that it's there. Reducing your life to 100 and discarding 2 cards is a huge cost, but the upside is if you roll anything higher than maybe a 2, you're drawing a really good amount of cards to make this card worth it. I also think this and Grit will get a lot better when we get more life point gain cards, because right now it's kind of end all be all. You get to 100 life or you get to Grit's 1 life point, and that's kind of it. You kind of have to win right after that. But if you can gain life after this resolves, like, you're sitting pretty, especially if you drew like 3 or more cards. I think the discard 2 is fine. I think the going down to 100 right now is very risky with Kunai and Windstorm and Sphere Karibo in the game. So that's why I tend not to use this as much as I probably could, but I really do like this skill. I just kind of want to guarantee my survival even after my life points have been cut after the fact. But I definitely think this isn't something to sneeze at. Drawing up to 6 cards in one shot can just change the entire game around. So hopefully you're winning that turn just so that 100 life points doesn't kill you. But I think this card definitely comes in clutch when it needs to. Coming in at number 2, we have Pegasus' skill Millennium Eye. At the start of the duel, look at your opponent's opening hand. You may choose to have that player shuffle their hand into their deck and draw a new hand. If both players use a skill at the same time, the turn player resolves their skill first. Basically saying, if something else triggers around the same time this one does, whoever's turn player gets to resolve their skill first. So what's cool about this is, let's say your opponent's playing Blue Eyes, as an example, and they start the duel with the God Hand, the Lord of D, or the Flu, and the 2 dragons to give them the huge OTK capabilities that deck is capable of. With this skill, you can then look at that hand, be like, oh yeah, no, we can't allow that. Let them shuffle it in and draw a new hand, and maybe they just draw a brick or draw something slower that they won't have that ridiculous OTK off turn 1. I love this for the sole fact that you get to basically screw with your opponent's hand. Like, there's no guarantee that shuffling in a good hand will give them a bad hand. It could give them another good hand. It could give them arguably the same hand. You're playing with 20 to 30 card decks. It's a lot easier to draw multiples of the same card than it is in a regular Yu-Gi-Oh deck. But I think being able to A, get the information to know what they're playing, B, make sure they don't go off immediately, and C, if they do open a bad hand, you do not have to do anything with this. You could just get the information of their hand and just keep them with a bad hand and just know where they're going from there. So it's really cool to mess with. I think this card is really good. I think this card is really underrated. A lot of people don't play it because there's the gamble that they could just get another good hand and you'd want your skill to guarantee you something. And I understand that. I'm kind of more of a conservative player myself, which is why you guys see me play like Destiny Draw and all my generic skill decks. But Millennium Eye for sure can definitely turn tides if A, you want to screw up your opponent's open, and or B, get the information you need to know how to play around their hand from this point on. But coming in at number 1, if you hadn't guessed it by now since I just mentioned it, it is Destiny Draw. This is a Yami Yugi skill. I also wonder if that means they'll make Little Yugi in the future. I don't know too much about Duel Links, but you guys can clarify me on that if you want. That would be interesting also, I think, because if you're going to side and they keep the side rule with character skills, then you can't side Little Yugi into Yami Yugi and vice versa, so I think that'd be interesting. But anyways, this is a Yami Yugi skill. If you lose 2,000 or more life points, you can activate this skill during your next draw phase. During your draw phase, you may search your deck for any card, reveal it to your opponent, and add it to your hand instead of drawing. If you do that, flip this card over. So there's a lot to go over with this one. The first thing is this is not once per duel. You flip it back over. So that means if you were to lose another 2,000 later on, you could flip this again. Right now I understand without the life gain being really prevalent in the game, that's kind of hard. That doesn't normally happen. But in the future, when we get more life gain cards, this could definitely get flipped multiple times. So I think that'd be quite interesting to see moving forward. Another thing is, if you lose 2,000 or more life points, this doesn't have to be from one attack. This doesn't have to be in one turn. You can actually take 2,000 off of your own self by like paying 1,000 off 7 tools twice or whatever. It's just as long as you lose 2,000 life, 2,000 or more, and you haven't flipped this yet, you can then flip this. The only time you'd be able to flip this after the fact is if you lost then another 2,000 or more after you've already used this. So keep that in mind when you're playing this. But I think this is definitely the best generic card out there. Instead of drawing for your draw phase, you get whatever you need to your hand. I think that's pretty cool because there are often a lot of situations where you'll brick or you'll have all the pieces to the puzzle, but you just didn't draw that one card that fixes the hand completely. I know you Amazon players know what I'm talking about if you see the field spell, the heirloom, and maybe some back row, but you just need one freaking Amazon card. You know what? Play this skill, let yourself get down to 2,000 or less, take the damage, and then go search for your Amazon, and then you should be okay. I understand that's not ideal, but sometimes we live in an unideal situation where this card literally shines better than anything else. So guys, that's my top 5 generic skills. I think Destiny Draw will be probably one of the best generic skills going forward for a very long time. The set's only introduced 5 skills, so I don't know how many will be able to top these lists in the future, but I'd definitely love to see a shake-up for sure. Guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. As always, click the notification bell to get our latest updates. Check out our Patreon in the link down below. And above all else, have a great day. Have a great life. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm so sick, and I just want to stop being sick. So anyways, guys, have a good weekend. I'll see you next week. We won't have a Saturday video this week because we have a regional this weekend. So unless I get any videos covering the regional, which is going to be tough, I'm vending it, so it's going to be real tough even getting a video in. But if such an opportunity arises, I will try to cover it and put it on here as soon as possible. But as always, thanks guys, have a good day, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.